Today's topic is one that almost everyone has heard of, but most people get wrong. OneDrive Sync. What exactly is it? Is it just saving files to the cloud, or is it something much smarter than that? Here's the thing. Most people think OneDrive is basically a cloud folder, a USB stick in the sky. You drag a file in, it uploads a copy, and that's the end of it. But that's not how it works at all. Sync is the real magic, and sync is not upload. Think of it as a two-way mirror, a live connection between your device and Microsoft's servers, where any change on one side automatically shows up on the other. Edit a file on your laptop, and 2 seconds later that same change appears on your phone. That's the mirror in action. But here's the problem. That mirror can crack. Files vanish, sync gets stuck, and you run out of space, so nothing works anymore. And because nobody ever explains how this stuff actually works, most people just assume OneDrive lost their file. By the end of this episode, you'll understand exactly what sync does, how files on demand works, why it breaks, and how AI is turning OneDrive from a storage box into a smart assistant. So let's start with the biggest myth, that sync is just uploading. What sync actually is, the two-way mirror. The common belief is simple. You save a file to your OneDrive folder and that file gets uploaded to the cloud. A copy leaves your computer and lands on Microsoft's servers. That's it. But that's not what sync is. Sync creates a live connection between your device and Microsoft's servers. Think of it as a mirror. Whatever happens on one side happens on the other. Delete a file on your desktop and it disappears from the cloud. Rename a file on your phone and the name changes on your laptop. It's not a one-time upload. It's a constant, ongoing conversation between your devices. Now let's contrast that with how things used to work. 20 years ago, if you wanted to work on the same file from 2 different computers, you had to manually copy it to a network drive or email it to yourself. Then you'd end up with 3 versions of the same file. Report final, doc, report final v2, doc, report actually final, this time doc. It was a mess. OneDrive does it constantly in the background with version history as a safety net. You don't have to think about it. You save the file and it's everywhere. And if you mess something up, you can roll back to any of the last 500 versions. That's the safety net. Why does this matter? Because without sync, OneDrive is just a storage box, a place to put files you might need later. But with sync, it becomes your active workspace. You can start a document on your office desktop, make edits on your laptop during the commute, and review it on your phone before bed. All on the same file with no copying, no emailing, and no version confusion. But here's where things get tricky. Not every file on your device is actually on your device. Files on demand, the feature that changes everything. Have you ever opened your OneDrive folder in File Explorer and noticed some files have a cloud icon next to them, while others have a green check mark? Those little icons are telling you something important about where that file actually lives. The cloud icon means the file is online only. It's stored in the cloud, not on your computer. You can see it, search it, even preview over 300 different file types, but the actual file data isn't taking up space on your hard drive. The green check mark means the file is locally available. It's downloaded to your device and stored on your hard drive. You can open it offline, edit it, save changes, and those changes will sync back to the cloud when you're connected. This feature is called Files on Demand, and it changes everything. It lets you see all your cloud files without downloading them. You can browse through your entire OneDrive, search for anything, preview documents and images, all while the file stays safely in the cloud. When you open a file, OneDrive downloads it instantly. And when you're done, it can revert back to online only, freeing up that space again. The file is still there, still accessible, still synced. It just doesn't sit on your hard drive when you're not using it. This is enabled by default in modern OneDrive builds. Most users never change it, and honestly, they probably shouldn't. It saves a ton of disk space without sacrificing access. But here's where the confusion starts. If you delete an online-only file from your device, it deletes it from OneDrive everywhere. It's gone from the cloud too. Unless you catch it in the recycle bin within 30 days, that file is gone. So be careful with that delete key. Think of it like a library catalog. You can see the book title and cover on the shelf. You can even flip through the first few pages. But the book itself stays on the shelf until you check it out. When you're done reading, you put it back. That's files on demand. So if files can be online only, what exactly happens when you double-click that Word document? How the sync engine works behind the scenes. So what's actually happening when you double-click that file? There's a piece of software running on your computer called the OneDrive Sync Engine. It runs as a Windows service, which means it's always on, always watching. You don't have to launch it or remember to start it. It's just there. When you save a file to your OneDrive folder, that engine detects the change instantly. It adds the file to a queue and starts uploading it to Microsoft servers. For small files, this happens so fast you barely notice. For large files, the engine does something clever. It breaks the file into chunks and uploads them in parallel. So instead of sending one giant file in a single stream, it sends multiple pieces at the same time. And if your connection drops mid-upload, it picks up where it left off. Resumable uploads mean no starting over. The same thing happens in reverse. If someone edits a file on another device, the engine detects the change on Microsoft servers and downloads it to your computer. The mirror works both ways. But what happens when 2 people edit the same file at the same time? OneDrive handles this with conflict resolution. It saves both versions. The original keeps its name, and the second version gets 1 added to the file name. So you end up with budget XLSX and budget 1.xlsx, and you decide which to keep. It's not elegant, but it's better than losing someone's work. And here's the safety net underneath all of this. Version history. OneDrive keeps up to 500 previous versions of your files for 30 days. If you have a retention policy from your work or school account, that can go much longer. So if someone overwrites your document or you accidentally delete a paragraph, you can roll back to any saved version. The sync status icons in File Explorer are your window into this engine. The cloud icon means the file is remote. It's in the cloud, not on your device. The green checkmark means it's local and fully synced. The blue arrows mean it's actively syncing. Those icons tell you exactly what the engine is doing at that moment. And one more thing about speed, OneDrive uses differential sync. That means when you edit a file, it doesn't re-upload the entire thing. It only transfers the bits that changed. So if you add one sentence to a 50-page document, it sends that one sentence, not the whole document. That's why sync feels fast even with huge files. That all sounds clean, right? So why does sync sometimes just stop? Why sync breaks? The top 3 beginner mistakes. Here's the thing. The sync engine is reliable, but it follows rules. When you break those rules, it breaks silently. There's no pop-up, no warning, just a red X on the OneDrive icon and files that refuse to move. The number one cause is a path that's too long. Windows has a 400-character limit for file paths, and that means the full path from your C drive all the way down to the file name counts. So if your folder structure looks like OneDrive, Projects, Client Reports, 2026, Q1, Marketing, Campaign Analysis, Drafts, Final Version, DocX, you're already over the limit. OneDrive can't sync files with paths longer than 400 characters. It just stops, and it doesn't tell you why. The second most common issue is storage full. If you're on a free OneDrive account, you get 5 GB, and that fills up fast. When your quota is full, sync pauses. No warning, just a red X on the icon. You can still see your files, but nothing new will upload. The fix is simple. Free up space or upgrade your plan. But if you don't know it's happening, you'll wonder why your files aren't syncing. The third one is a file locked by another app. If you have a Word document open or an Excel file or a Photoshop project, OneDrive can't sync it while it's in use because the file is locked by the application. You'll see the file is in use in the Activity Center. Close the app and sync resumes. But if you're working on a file and walking away from your computer, that file stays locked until you close it. There are other causes too. File names with unsupported characters like ampersands, colons, or question marks. Individual files larger than 15 GB. Libraries with more than 100,000 files. The performance starts to drop long before you hit the official limit of 300,000. And then there's what IT professionals call sync purgatory. Files that appear to be syncing, but never complete. They just sit there with blue arrows spinning forever. That's a path length issue or a file lock. Here's the quick fix that works for most problems. Right-click the OneDrive icon in your system tray. Click Pause Syncing. Wait 30 seconds. Click Resume Syncing. That simple cycle clears temporary glitches about 80% of the time. If that doesn't work, there's a more powerful option. Open a command prompt and run OneDrive. Exe reset. This clears the sync database without deleting your files. It's like rebooting the engine. Your files stay on your device and in the cloud, but the sync state resets. When you sign back in, OneDrive resyncs everything fresh. But sometimes the problem isn't the engine at all. It's how you've set up what to sync in the first place. Selective sync versus files on demand. When to use what? A lot of people think selective sync and files on demand do the same thing. They don't. They're two different tools that solve two different problems. Mixing them up is why some users end up with files they can't find or a hard drive that's full for no reason. Selective sync is about which folders show up on your device at all. You go into OneDrive settings, click Choose Folders, and uncheck the ones you don't need locally. Those unchecked folders don't appear in File Explorer. They don't sync at all. They just live in the cloud, and you can only reach them through a browser or the mobile app. It's a binary choice. Either a folder is on your device or it isn't. Files on demand is different. It shows everything. Every folder, every file, every subfolder appears in File Explorer. The difference is that most of them start as online-only placeholders. They're visible, searchable, and previewable, but they don't take up space until you actually open them. It's a much finer level of control. Now, there's a new feature in 2026 that bridges the gap between these two. It's called folder exclusion. This lets you sync a parent folder but exclude specific subfolders from it. So you can sync your projects folder but exclude projects as archived without having to choose between syncing everything or nothing. That's something selective sync alone couldn't do before. So when do you use each one? If you have limited disk space, say a 128 GB laptop, and you only need a few folders for offline work, selective sync is your friend. Uncheck everything except the folders you actually use. The rest stays in the cloud, invisible on your device, not taking up any space at all. If you want access to everything but don't want it all taking up space, use Files on Demand. Let everything appear in File Explorer as online only. Then, for the files you work on regularly, right-click and choose Always Keep on this device. For the ones you're done with, right-click and choose Free Up Space. That reverts them back to online only. And here's something you can do. Windows Storage Sense can automate this. You can set it to automatically revert files to online only after 30 or 60 days of no use. That means files you haven't touched in a while quietly free up space without you having to think about it. It's the ultimate set and forget approach. So you can manage what's local and what's remote with a lot of precision. But what if you want to move your entire OneDrive folder to another drive? Moving OneDrive to another drive. When and why? By default, your OneDrive folder lives at C per users by your name plus OneDrive. That's your system drive, the same one where Windows lives. So if that system drive is a small SSD, say 128 GB, your OneDrive folder can eat up a huge chunk of your available space pretty quickly. Moving it to another drive is possible, but here's the thing. You can't just drag the folder from C to D. That won't work. OneDrive needs to know where its folder lives, and the only way to do that is to unlink and relink your account. Here's the process. Right-click the OneDrive icon in your system tray, go to Settings, click the Account tab, and then click Unlink this PC. That disconnects your current sync setup. But before you do that, make sure you copy your existing files from the old OneDrive folder to a safe location. You don't want to lose anything. Once you've unlinked, sign back into OneDrive. During setup, it will ask where you want to put your OneDrive folder. It defaults to C drive, but you click Change Location and browse to your D drive. Create a folder called OneDrive there, select it, and finish the setup. Now every file you sync will end up on your D drive. When should you do this? If your C drive is small, common on laptops with 128 GB SSDs, or if you have a large secondary drive for data and want to keep your system drive lean. OneDrive remembers the new location across updates, so you only have to do this once. One thing to keep in mind, moving your OneDrive folder to another drive doesn't affect your cloud storage at all. Your files are still in the cloud, still synced, still accessible from any device. The only thing that changes is where the local copies sit on your machine. It's a local change, not a cloud change. Now let's talk about the biggest change coming to OneDrive, AI. How AI and Copilot are changing OneDrive. For a long time, OneDrive was just a storage box, a place to put files. You searched by file name or navigated through folders, and that was it. The content inside those files was invisible to the search bar unless you had them downloaded locally. Copilot changes that completely by turning OneDrive into a smart assistant. You can ask questions about your files without ever opening them. Need to know what last month's sales report said? You don't open the spreadsheet, you just ask. In OneDrive for Web, there's a Copilot icon now. Click it, and you can summarize a document, compare two versions of the same file, or ask questions about the content. And it works across up to 5 files at once. So you can say, find the differences between these 3 proposals, and Copilot does the comparison for you. There's a feature in preview called Ask Copilot that lives right in File Explorer. You hover over a file, a Copilot icon appears, you click it, and you get insights about that file without opening it. Summary, key points, action items. It's all right there in the hover. And for Copilot Plus PCs, there's semantic search. Instead of searching by file name, you search by describing the content, like the budget report from last quarter with the chart on page 3. And OneDrive finds it not by name or folder location, but by what's actually inside the document. The PDF viewer has Copilot built in now too. You open a PDF in OneDrive, and you can ask questions about it right there. What's the termination clause? When does this contract expire? Copilot reads the document and answers. No scrolling through pages. And here's something that matters for power users. The sync engine itself got a major upgrade. It now supports up to 1 million items on Windows. That's up from 300,000. It's in public preview right now, but it's a huge deal for people who manage massive file libraries. What does all this mean for you? OneDrive isn't just a place to store files anymore. It's becoming a place where you understand them, where you can ask questions, find things by describing them, and get summaries without reading everything. It's the difference between a filing cabinet and an assistant who knows what's in every folder. So with all this power, how do you keep sync healthy and avoid the headaches? Practical tips for a healthy sync. Let me walk you through 8 simple habits that keep OneDrive sync running smoothly. These are small things that prevent big headaches. Start with your folder structure. Keep it shallow. Avoid nesting more than 5 levels deep. Every level adds characters to the path, and paths over 400 characters break sync silently. Shallow folders are easier to navigate and less likely to hit that limit. For file names, skip the special characters. Ampersands, angle brackets, colons, quotes, pipes, question marks, asterisks. These will break sync. Stick with letters, numbers, hyphens, and underscores. Now watch your storage quota. Set a reminder at 80% usage. When you hit the limit, sync pauses with a red X. No warning. It just stops. Catch it early and you avoid the headache. If you use a work or school account, be aware of known folder move. This feature automatically redirects your desktop, documents, and pictures folders to OneDrive. It's convenient for backup, but it can fill up your quota fast if you're not paying attention. Share a PC with others? Use separate Microsoft accounts. Shared OneDrive folders on the same machine create sync conflicts. Each person should have their own account and their own sync setup. When something goes wrong, start with the simplest fix. Pause syncing, wait 30 seconds, then resume. This works about 80% of the time. It clears temporary glitches without any risk to your files. For persistent issues, run OneDrive, exit reset from a command prompt. This clears the sync database without deleting your files. When you sign back in, OneDrive rebuilds the sync state from scratch. Finally, use Always Keep on this device for files you absolutely need offline. Your resume, your tax documents, your critical work files, mark them as always available. Everything else can stay online only and save you space. Here's a quick checklist for beginners. Check your storage, check your path length, check for file locks, restart OneDrive, reset as a last resort. Follow that order and you'll solve almost every sync problem. So now you know how the engine works, why it breaks, and how to fix it. Let's wrap this up. You now understand how sync works, why it breaks, and how to fix it. Sync is a two-way mirror that keeps your files identical across all your devices. Files on Demand keeps everything visible without taking up space. And Copilot is turning OneDrive from a storage box into a smart workspace where you can ask questions about your files. Here's the bottom line. OneDrive Sync isn't complicated. It follows rules. Learn those rules and it works flawlessly. Break them and you get the red X. Here's your challenge. Open File Explorer, look at your OneDrive folder, and spot those status icons. Are you using Files on Demand or Selective Sync? Do you know which files are local and which are online only? If not, now you know how to check. Ready for more? Next episode, we'll cover how OneDrive backups work, the difference between sync and backup, and why you actually need both. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and share this with someone who's ever said, OneDrive lost my file. It probably didn't. They just didn't understand how sync works. Now you do.